I wrote Freak Machine while I was a student at Berklee College of Music, and in one of my ear training classes we were learning about Dmitri Shostakovich's work, and he's a 20th century classical composer whose music is just insanely emotional, sometimes super dissonant, other times super consonant, and just hard to predict, but easy for me at least to love. I could see it maybe not being everyone's favorite thing, but it's just really potent. And Shostakovich has this, his first violin concerto's third movement is one of my favorite pieces of music that exists, and in my ear training class we were transcribing the bass line of the piece, and then we started transcribing the melody that's in the violins. It's a violin concerto. That means that the violin really takes the lead a lot of the time, and it's the center of attention. And so we transcribed the bass line, we transcribed the melody, and what we realized, or what we were taught, basically what's going on in this piece, is that the bass line is happening over and over and over again in a loop forever. And then the melody line is moving for a certain number of measures, and then it moves elsewhere for the next chunk of measures. But while it's moving elsewhere, everything that it had just played in the previous section is now being played by the orchestra. So the orchestra is sort of like a loop pedal for the violin, and there's the low brass and strings looping this bass line, and then the rest of the orchestra starts looping everything that the violin melody is doing. And when you hear it, it does not feel like that is the case. It doesn't sound like a loop. It just sounds like this huge, swelling, swirling, amazing musical orgasm that just brings you to tears, you know, and it was just so striking. And when I found out how the form works and learned what that's called, it's called a passacaglia. It typically has a repeating bass line, but I mean, I've heard a lot of passacalias now, and none of them are as cool as that one, man. But yeah, it's movement 3 of Shostakovich's first violin concerto, and I really wanted to bring that concept into the third movement of Freak Machine. And so I started taking this one, it's not a bass line, but it's a melody line, dung, 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 and I wanted to create a swirling world around that repeating line. So the beginning of movement 3 is really inspired by the passacaglia form. I don't know if it really counts. I'm not like an expert on those things, so I don't know if it's officially passacaglia or if it's too vague, but the sound for movement 3 is my attempt at the time to capture that feeling, and I ended up with, I'd say, a different feeling than that. I don't think I was successful at like copying the sense of the third movement of Shostakovich's piece, but if you listen to the third movement of Freak Machine, you'll hear that swirling thing I'm describing. And so I don't know what the law is like. It seems like it's fair use for me to post the audio to Shostakovich, but just to be safe, I'm going to link to a recording on YouTube of the Shostakovich third movement violin concerto there, and also to the third movement of Freak Machine. And yeah, that's a little glimpse into where my mind was at when I was writing that. And if there's anything that I'd like you to take away from this, it's really cool to take music you like and break it down and try to understand its form and how it's working, and then try to just copy that aspect of it into your own music and see where that takes you. It might lead you to something totally different, but it was a great way for writing to happen for me, and I've continued doing that since then. I like how that sounds. I'm going to take the form of it. I'm going to try to create like a formula for it, which will be a really weird, vague distortion of it. Then I'll bring it into my own music, and that vague distortion will become a seed, and over time it will change more and more till it's just completely a different thing.